I got a chance.
Opportunity, promotion, blah, blah. You know, those are just words.
Words. All I have to offer is words. Just words.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
What's going on, my beautiful peoples? It's a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Evening? Evening. Yeah, evening. My bad. You know what it is? I'm still like on that lost shit of time.
The what shit?
Just time.
The law?
Lost in time.
Oh, lost in time.
When does evening start?
I don't know, man. Because now I'm on this shit. I try to hit the gym. And I try to do it at off-peak hours. And so when I'm walking into the gym at 11 and the kid is still telling me good morning, I'm like, really though? Is it? I'm like, it's not morning, bro. Y el tigre está cansado.
11 at night.
No, 11 in the morning.
That is morning.
Yeah, but it's like that's close to afternoon at that point.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. Okay. But it can, the days just feel short.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, oh, the day's gone at 11.
No, by 2 o'clock, I'm like, if I didn't do it today, let's leave it for tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's bad. Yo, what's going on? This is Ron Kane from Just Words. And that other lovely voice that you just heard is my brother, my main man, Dre Drizzle.
What's going on? What's happening? What's popping, my people?
How are you doing today,
Cansado. Me está bien, though. Long day today. Cansado.
4 cups of coffee gone.
4 cups of coffee gone. Ya tú sabes. But feeling good, bro.
Yo, every time I catch you on a weekday to do a show, you're like, yo,
Explotado, baby. Pero imagínate, gotta do what I gotta do, right?
Is there a direct correlation to the more tired you are, the more Spanish you speak?
Yeah, I think so. I think it reminds me of my father when he used to come from work. I think that's the side that comes out of me.
Por ese tigre era un mecánico, bro.
How cansado that man was.
Igual.
How cansado, explotado, bro. Yeah.
All right, man. And that other lovely voice that you're hearing on deck is always the lovely, honorable Lady H.
It's nice to be back. We had quite the adventurous July that we thought it would be great to go backpacking and then straight from that go to 120-degree heat.
125.
125 and just relax in an oven.
We
We thought that was a great idea. So it was definitely a vacation of endurance.
I never, I've never walked away from an experience so much more appreciative to just like the simple things in life. Backpacking I'm going to say the Appalachian Trail. We didn't do the whole shit, but we did like a little loop. And the little loop was like 13 miles. But in the mix
Wasn't it 15?
Oh, 15 miles, my bad, 15. And within that loop, the elevation difference of 1 mile would be 1,000 feet.
Damn. Oh, yeah.
And so just to give people context of what 1,000 feet looks like, it's the height of the Empire State Building without the needle. So we were going up and down that in jagged ass fucking rocks that would poke the exact center of my foot and make me lose all life and balance. But
whose idea was for this vacation?
I thought it was gonna be nice.
This is how we approached it. We thought we're like, 5 miles a day, that's nothing. That's like below beginner level that they suggest.
Wow.
And we thought we could do it because we do that in New York, no problem. But factor in a whole mountain to that and 50 to 60 pounds on your back. That's a different story. Have you been backpacking?
I'm a hiker. I'm a hiker. So I live in Denver, Colorado now.
Oh, shit.
And so you were talking about elevation gain, and that's why you said that. I was like, yep, sounds about right. But so New York City for scale is under 200 feet. I forget 100 however many feet. Manhattan is above sea level. Denver by default is over 6,000 feet starting.
Right? Christ.
So then when you start getting into the mountains, it's like I drive up and then I'm like at like 8,000 something, and then at the end of a hike, which will be one of those short ones, like, oh yeah, the 5 miles. I'm like at 11,000 feet in the air, having done a lot. So when you're describing, I'm like, yeah, sounds like my weekend.
That's what I do for fun now.
And just before we keep it moving, that other lovely voice that you're hearing on deck is someone that I'm super excited to have on. Writer, creator, playwright, director, creative, everything. Mash it. But most importantly, I came to know you from a dope play called Vamanos, that is, a Dominican story, pero before we continue to all that, who we got on deck? My homegirl, Julissa.
What's good? What's good, everybody? So happy to be here with y'all. This
Welcome,
is a blessing.
Julissa.
Yes.
Welcome. Bienvenida.
Yes.
You got like perfect radio voice too. Good
Yeah,
for you.
for real.
I love that. You know, I hope so. I went to Brooklyn College for TV and radio, so
No
I would
shit.
hope that I didn't waste my college years.
Yo, but so hit me up with more tidbits of what you got.
Right. I'm gonna start doing little reveals throughout the whole episode. Oh, I also.
Little Easter eggs.
I will share with you, in full transparency, when I went to go see Vamonos, right? I'm not by organically like just the way of being chosen and born into this life. I'm not into theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
theatre?
The theatre. It was that. It's not my thing. It was not my thing. The most experience I've ever had to it is either Lady H. She's a costume designer, so whatever show she would work on, I would go check out. Fortunately, all of the shows that she's been working on, they're really good. And I'm like, oh shit, great. Because I was very worried at first. I was like, fuck, man.
Like, damn, I gotta go to another show. Great costume, babe.
Because the first show that she took me to was a Shakespearean play.
Oh.
Right, it was Shakespeare?
It was. Yes.
Wow, they thrusted you straight into
and
the
I
theater.
was like, ooh.
Damn.
But it was cool. Like,
It's like a modern adaptation.
Pero-
it was Timon of Athens, and Timon was a woman.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it takes me a while to process the level of English
Yeah.
that is being spoken in
Yeah.
Shakespeare. So I'm like, subtitles, please.
Yeah.
So, but when I went to your show, and in full transparency, I was a little worried because I'm like, damn, man, the theater, not your show, nothing,
Right.
is an absolute appropriate Bronx experience. You would walk in and go into this, what seems like the back of entrance, take an elevator, and
Well,
you're like,
there are no signs.
There's no
But-
signs.
There's
Yeah.
no signs.
Wait, it was in the Bronx?
no,
It was
no.
Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, is that how kids? I'm
Like
like,
on-
theater in the Bronx. I never heard
Intar
of that.
Theater.
What was
yeah.
it? It's 9th and like 30. What is it?
It's downtown.
Yeah, 52nd
50, yeah,
Street
yeah.
on 10th Ave in a janky red building
Yes.
that does not look like anything is inside. No
No
trouble.
signs.
Yo, you walk in. The only sign it has is "Please close the door behind you," and I'm like, shit, I'm about getting set up here.
Oh my god.
Then you go up this fucking elevator, and you're like, bueno. Yo, and I was like, oh shit. And then you come out the elevator, and you're like, and it's like a little hallway, and then
A couple chairs.
a couple of chairs, and then people keep it professional. Say like, oh, we're not ready yet, and I'm like, okay, because of the tonality and the voice is non-threatening, it's non-offensive,
Yeah.
it's
It's
okay.
welcoming,
We're
it's
safe.
here.
And so, but then, once you walk in, it's really cool with how you guys changed the entire space. Mm-hmm. You literally felt like I was transported into what the scene and the experience is supposed to be, which is in a Bronx household, right? To me, it felt very Washington Heights. To me, it's all the same. I felt like I was at home. I was like, diablo, pero mira, estoy en la casa de Isabelita.
That was great. I think the set designer, Rodrigo, did such a
Yes.
great job.
And I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
wow, man, this is dope.
Yeah.
So I was super excited, super excited, right? Experience the play. I mean, it's already done, but I don't want to get.
You can talk about it. You can go ahead. Go ahead.
Talk about it.
Tell the people what they missed.
Yo, the shit was fire. Like
That's
I
great.
legit felt it was an organic experience. Meaning, sometimes when you go to a Latino show or you see a Latino film, and it has to be very spicy Latino
For Latinos.
Yeah, and it's like, what fucking white man's pitch deck this shit came from? And I was like, mira, esto está, like this. It felt organic. It felt true. It felt very authentic, and I was super happy and proud. So much so Now, once we finished experiencing the show, 2 avenues later, estaba yo hablando, raving about it. Like, we were talking, and I was like super proud, and and I just want to share that with you because the lead up to that moment, I was a little worried. I'm like, fuck, man, and I felt, and nothing against the space, nothing against the operation. However, I felt that it did do a disservice to the presentation of the added value of your programming, of your show. So that's my position, my humble opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that because I think I'll share a little bit if I may about the journey of how I even got to Intar because I would tell my cast and crew this story a lot, especially the first day of rehearsal. I'm like, guys, I want you to know that like when I got this opportunity and people said, oh yeah, Intar Theather, I had worked with Intar before, so I knew what people would walk into, and for a moment I was like, damn, like this is my off-Broadway debut, but like at Intar, people are gonna look at me like they're not gonna take me seriously. Like no one's gonna respect my shit because even walking into the building, exactly what you described. But then I let myself sit in the, well, why this building and why is this the case? And I think that is actually what ignited me to be so intentional about how I did the work, because the only reason Intar has spaces like that is because with the gentrification and displacement of people in Hell's Kitchen, that included the movement of programs and spaces that were already established. They've been in that building waiting for a new space for over a decade.
Holy shit.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, right. So you see that what's happening in that space is like, while we agree that is experience, and they have no control over the elevator and all the things that look like how they look, they have very little control, and naturally aren't trying to invest like thousands and thousands of dollars of revamping a space that they've been hoping to leave for some time, right? But the American theater, like any other creative industry, does not serve the people, right? So they look at Intar as an institution where every year Intar has to apply and basically, ask for funds left and right in order to survive and scrap a season together. And it's not fair, right? And so when I decided to say yes, I was like, if it is true that I can have faith in my work and say, this play is fire.
Talk about it.
Do I want it to be in a white institution because it's gonna serve me best and like everybody will put more respect on my name because somebody white and fancy decided to produce me? Or do I keep true to who I am, which is very much a person of my community and the people at all costs, because my career can be in very different places had I chosen to pick other things over the integrity of my community, right? So I was like, nah, we're gonna do it at Intar and people are gonna come, and the people who come are gonna know what's good and be a part of the culture from the ground.
No, that was the truth right there.
Yo, hey, how many times did you rehearse that in the mirror?
I want to add that I really admire and respect the choice that y'all made to not put subtitles.
Yeah.
And to not use
that was
English.
a massive,
I loved that.
massive discussion, right? And I have to admit, I have to out myself. I was the person who was the most worried because everybody read the play and they're like, fuck anybody who don't speak Spanish. Everybody better understand this, because if anybody understands family dynamics and even just being a New Yorker, right? Like, because the play does take place around 9/11, like if you don't know how to connect, you're not watching the play. And everybody in the cast, the crew, the producers kept saying that, and I'm like, I don't know, guys, like there are gonna be a lot of folks, and it's not just about white people who don't speak Spanish. I'm like, I got African American folk, Caribbean folk, I got a lot of people from a lot of places around the world who are also part of the global majority who I want to invite to this story, and they don't speak Spanish. And so they were like, okay, good point, but we think if a white person can understand it, so can they. And so I lost that debate only because we didn't have enough outlets to plug in a place to even have the subtitles. So the choice was taken away. And
¿Qué es lo que estamos hablando?
So the whole show is in Spanish.
No.
It's bilingual, but the way it is, it's true to what we see, right? So the parents are speaking Spanish, and the kids are like, oh, but mom, and it's mira muchacho. Like, the responses are what they are. And, I think it really did serve the piece. And I think it needed to happen that way, not just for me to see, but for other creatives to see. Stop molding your work for the commercialization of the things that are out there. When you as an artist are creating something and putting something forth from your heart, it's you who creates the mold. It is the industry that has to mold to the creative juice and gem that you're putting forth, because when the people respond, that means the money responds, and that's the reason why they do what they do. We as creatives, some do it for money, some don't, but once the people show up, it don't matter. I always use Get Out as an example. Very little marketing. Nobody really knew. And once the culture showed up and everybody was like, nah, you got to go see this movie because suddenly it became this wave and it was undeniable and it got its nominations and it didn't do anything that was traditional, you know? So we got to do more of that. We got to stand 10 toes down on our work.
Yo, I'm in the middle of you speaking. I want to drop like 10 bombs.
Then you would have messed it up. Though.
I've seen your reflexes. And I'm saying it, so I'm like, should I stop?
I felt like funk flat in my brain. I'm like, yo. I'm like, no, pero ya in my head.
You're absolutely right. Like it is, and it's hard to say no to those commercial interests and to the industry. It's so hard. So I see you doing work like Vamonos and really committing to what the piece is and who you are as an artist and to the artists in the room, because the team you had, phenomenal. I love Tatiana. I love Herman. I love Rodrigo as not only as artists but as individuals and peoples. And the actors you had in your cast were amazing.
Murdered it.
Some of the best actors I've seen in the city.
I will say I had one complaint. My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off. But no, I did have one complaint.
Tell me.
Yo, why the fuck the father was so buff?
He was so tight about the
T-Mobile, Polo with
Say the Planet Fitness.
Yo, bro.
I'm like, blink the other day.
Ese tigre, bro, pulled out a polo out of nowhere, and I'm like, ese no es papi, no. Bro, the nigga's supposed to be a cab driver, right? And I'm like, yo, where the beer belly at? Where's the gun?
Probably the industry talking
No.
right there.
And I was like, fine, I'll accept this modern day father look.
Yeah, and you know what's beautiful about that? And I'm so glad you brought that up because the casting
Especially
for this play.
in what, 2001? That
Yeah,
was
2001. Yeah. And so what was interesting about that, so Cesar Rosado, that's the actor, Cesar's audition tape had gotten lost. So we were like, damn, we barely got people to submit for this role. And we were like, don't nobody want to play a Dominican dad? Funny enough, Jerry Diaz, and he'll tell you himself, I was on his ass. I was like, Jerry, you got to do the show and, you know, time and schedules and things. But
Can you imagine if Jerry was on that?
originally, you know, Jerry was the person I had in mind, but schedules didn't align. And then there's another actor, Francis Mateo, also uptown poet, wonderful artist. And he was supposed to play. And so he es flaquito, but he has a little bit more of that like body que se le ve un chingo
More cab driver body.
Que no es super Hulk, tú sabes, pero que no es gordo, right? So, and then he also couldn't do it because he had a newborn on the way, and so totally understood. So I was at a loss. I was like crying. I was like, I'm not gonna have a man to do this. I'm gonna have to cast a white Latino. I was like, because the cast was black. The casting call said black Spanish speakers, right? Because if you was from Ghana and you spoke Spanish, if you sounded
good,
Dominican, you good. It wasn't about having to be Dominican, but I was very intentional about being black, and that the blackness can have the different shades, right? Not that everybody, but because that's our truth, right? And so when Cesar came along, and I've known Cesar since I was in high school. When I saw his tip, I was like, this motherfucker did submit, cast him. And he did just such a lovely job. So it's so funny you said that, because he kept saying, yo, I feel kind of young. And he was like, why y'all got me in the Jesus 3000s? Like, he felt so like misplaced, but also at home because he's a Dominican himself. So, you know, he knew. But I'm just grateful that in the ways that the cast might have not been exactly ping pong a todo, that I think the way they evoked the emotion of what each character was going through was like,
oh no, they nailed it.
On point. Like he reminded me of like an Uncle Phil. I was like, damn, bitch, you wrote a Dominican Uncle Phil.
What is Vamonos about?
So Vamanos is basically a play about a Dominican family in the South Bronx, and we follow them from 2001 into 2002 from the events of 9/11. Julie, one of the cousins, has a dream where she basically prophesizes 9/11, but she wakes up, she doesn't know what it is yet, and we don't know, and she doesn't want to go to school that day, and everyone's like, mira muchacha, right? And so then 9/11 happens, right? And we fast forward, and we learn that one of the cousins, Alex, who had enlisted in the army prior to 9/11, is now in Germany, but everyone is fearing the risk of him being sent to Afghanistan, right? So we see that storyline play out, but really it's about about the way in which a Dominican family in the time, in one of the most unified, but also I think divided times in American history, because the idea of being politically involved for me came up in 9/11 because I didn't care about presidents, but I hated Bush. And I knew that was clear. And so then the idea that even though I was living in a Dominican bubble my whole life, that we were American, and even in our Americanness, there's a disconnect between what is urgent here versus what is happening here. So the play really follows the family, and we see all the family dynamics and lo chisme and all the drama that's going on. There's a baby's christening because one of the cousins had gotten pregnant, fucking around with a guy, sneaking him in while mom was at work.
She was wearing baby fat.
Yeah,
That's how
that's
they
They were
do
baby
it.
fat. Where did you find that at?
All pink baby fat.
So Jennifer Colon, who was the costume designer, also Dominicana, former like stylist to T.I. and did a bunch of music videos. She really came with that 2001 fire.
Yeah, she nailed it.
She nailed it.
Everything was important.
dope.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's really what the play is about, right? It's just like it's a slice of life play where you get to be with this family and connect with what's happening with them, but also just see how fucked up American can have a small Dominican family in the Bronx that in essence doesn't matter to anyone, but you see how important and just how devastating every decision that people make around them is to them as a family, and they have no control over those things. But love keeps them together, and love keeps them strong.
A family unity.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's also some talk of Santeria
Oh shit.
versus Christianity. And there's a lot of themes. Like, I can go on and on, but I wrote the play so heavily and having so many tracks because I feel like, you know, though as storytellers, we're encouraged to minimize our stories so that it's simpler and we can get to the point. I wanted a play that everybody could come with, your uncle, your grandma, little cousin, older, and everybody can see a character on the stage and follow the story and feel completely seen, heard, or at least resonate with what is happening to the people that they're watching. And I think I accomplished that.
Oh no, you did.
Oh, 1,000%.
You act in it too, right?
I did it.
No.
I'm an actor, but I don't like acting in what I write.
Copy.
Because then when you write, you know, for me, I want to honor what the characters are going through. And as an actor, you have to become it. And when you're in it, it's hard to really look at it.
That makes sense.
When you wrote it what, during the pandemic? Is that
So funny enough, I had begun writing the script back in, what was that, 2017. It was a scene between the two cousins playing the video games for a very long time. And I was in a writer's group. And then, you know, I had written a couple more pages, did readings here and there, and then sat it down and didn't do anything. Then during the pandemic,
got it?
when things were going south, and I was like, well, I don't know if American theater is going to come back. I mean, we truly at that point had no idea what was going to happen. And I was like, well, if I were to work on something, what's something I'd never finished that really mattered to me?
Got it.
And it was Vamonos. So
wow.
I finished it during the pandemic. Intar hit me up, unknowing of that, and was just like, what are you working on? And I was like, you know what? I just happened to have picked it up. So divine timing, and then I was able to get it produced.
That's awesome. man.
Is there another life for it?
So we shall see. I think what's very interesting right now, and it's like a gift and a curse. I love to see my people on strike and fighting for what they deserve. The actors and the writers are on strike, baby. Like, and a lot of people are like, damn, that's so unlucky of you. Like, you're now coming off of a very successful piece of work, and like, are you going to start taking meetings, or are you going to stand behind the picket line? I am not part of any of the unions officially, so I technically can be mulling around and entertaining conversations, but I stand in solidarity with my community because we want a better contract. Yo quiero entrar cuando están los contratos bien. Yo no me voy a meter ahora. Yo voy a esperar.
Ese contrato no se ven bien. No.
Adiós, yo voy a esperar con todo el mundo. Para que me den mi cuarto también.
Necesito mi cuarto.
So is there another life for it? I do genuinely hope so. And I do think that storyline, whether it is a movie or a television show that has a more extended, nuanced, slow progression, and then getting to see characters like Alex, right? Because we never see the cousin who went to war.
Right.
We never see the dad que un desgraciado y se fue para Santo Domingo con otra familia.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot we don't
word.
get.
That's
Yeah.
another. No.
He got that body that he's out. Oh, no. Stop saying, yeah.
Nah, he was
I know a few of those.
He's the Dominican cab driver that saved all his bread, moved his family to Jersey.
Yeah.
So
I
now
know a
he's
few of
money.
those too. Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah, so I hope to be able to give it another life, but if not on screen, definitely in theater, I hope to be able to expand. I was really excited, when I was able to connect with Lin-Manuel, and I was like, oh, I'm a writer of blah 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 blah, and we've met before. He was like, oh yeah, I've heard all about your show, and the day que él iba a venir a verlo was the day that the smoke came and was like
No
choking
fucking way.
everyone.
The smoke from Canada?
Yeah. So Canada got me. Me and Canada got some beef.
Ooh, they owe you.
Me and Canada got some
Yo, that's
beef.
fucked up. Qué coincidence, yo.
And he
Come
didn't
through,
come
come
back?
through.
But we were already. It was the closing week. Esa cosa pasó. It was already our closing weekend. But a lot of other wonderful people came. But even just that moment and having that moment of like, oh yeah, I've heard about the work.
Yeah, that's dope.
No,
Was like, oh, so you
Yeah,
heard about the
that's
work.
dope, yeah.
Oh,
Word
so
is
I
out.
must
The
be.
word is
Yeah.
out.
Also, Tatiana was sharing with me that the New York Times didn't come see it until later.
They never came.
They never came.
And because I could say it. And
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah. What
scared
are your
of
thoughts
anybody.
on it?
The New York Times right now is understaffed, right? That Dike, because I feel like I'm like, bro, like you over here like saying things to one person, but we a community, so I know that you said no to me here, but then this other random thing that came mad late popped up, and you had people for them, and you had people for them. All the people they had people for though were tied to predominantly white institutions.
Of course.
And so I'm not going to claim and say that they did it intentionally because I have no evidence. So New York Times, I'm not going to say it. But what it felt like for the creative team who was busting their ass, we opened in April and closed in June. There was plenty of time. They do not have good relationships with theaters like Intar because they do not put respect on the kind of work that comes out of those spaces.
Oh, wow.
Correct.
But for me, it was their loss.
Yeah.
Not
you
my
go.
loss.
1,000%.
Yeah, but it's another conversation. Again, I knew coming in the piece was going to be confronted with a lot of challenges with how the industry works, but I'm happy to be at the forefront of those challenges porque la que está buena soy yo.
Coño,
Eso no me importa. Yeah.
There's many other opportunities.
So that was that. But we had other people. Telemundo came like 3 times. And we had other, we were able to get other publications and people to be involved. And that, for me, brought me more pride and joy because between my mom, my aunts, and other people's aunts and abuelitas, like, they got to experience because the outlets and the spaces that they care about gave us our respect. So white folks who missed out, talk to New York Times. Y'all people didn't put y'all on to an incredible piece of theater. Tommy from Power said it's one of the best pieces of theater he ever seen.
Word? Tommy's the
Yeah.
white dude from Power, right? Yeah.
No, it was a really great piece.
Oh, all right. So you got some
So
good
I'm good.
publicity
So it's
off
all
of
right.
it.
New York Times. I'll
Yo,
catch you
but
next
why
show.
don't we talk to 50 about getting you a show then?
Vamos a ver.
Well, let's
Yo,
shout out to him.
Yeah, yo,
Tag 50.
Tag 50. Yeah.
you know.
I'm really looking forward to the work that you have coming out. So I don't know what you have on your docket, but I would love to hear.
Yeah, so now that the writer strike is happening and we sort of don't know the timeline of things, I have prepared myself to get pitches ready for some screen things that I want to put out. And my trip, so I was in Ghana, a few days ago, but right before going to Ghana, I was in Dominican Republic. And I was very grateful to have that because there's a piece I want to write that is a horror piece to go back into the times of enslaving Africans and following the journey of someone making it to Dominican Republic. And having somebody who comes on a trip to Dominican Republic and having their intuition and witchy powers evoked while they're like, there you want pa un teteo, pata, whatever. And then shit starts to happen and we learn a lot from there. And that's all I'll say about the piece now. But like, I am now wanting to create pieces of work that, yes, represent my people, but also allow conversations that we don't really be having how we need to be having on the forefront, but through a way that people are laughing and enjoying it, but then getting that gut punch in the end. That's my favorite thing. I like to have you have a good time and then punch you in the gut at the end. You know what I mean? And then have you walk out that way. So that's one piece. But really, I want to focus on a book that I've been writing for a long time. And Vamanos kind of got in the way. But I think with the writer strike, it's opportune for me to now focus some time on that book. The name of the book is That Book I Said I Was Writing. And
I was still waiting for the title.
And
That's the title. My
and
bad.
the book is about
I love
a
it.
writer in the pandemic who is taking the pandemic as the opportunity to be like, you know what, I'm going to write that book I said I was writing, but really you're following her thoughts and patterns throughout it, through poetry, whatever, and different moments. And that's all I'll say about that, because there's a specific twist to how I want to write the book that I've never seen been done before that I'm very excited to put out there and see how people respond.
Oh my God. I have to like put you on Google search. to
That's
see
a lot
everything
going
that
on
comes
there. Yeah. I'm the one time, Fuck, I'm complaining about. Diablo.
Yeah.
You mentioned Santeria, and considering that you had it on the show too, have you ever had any experiences with Santeria?
I am in the Ifa religion, right? So Ifa is like
My experience with Santeria is just motherfuckers wearing tons of beads.
And that song. What's that song? Tambo? What is it? Tambo.
If I sing
the
it-
one yo soy.
Yes.
My grandma used to play that shit. My grandma used to play that shit.
and you go into a party y todo el mundo está quitando los
Everybody
pesos.
throwing that.
Yeah. It's so interesting because, like, you know, there's a ton of different African traditional religions, and, you know, Santeria is like a branch of something that was in Africa and had to be reimagined and reinvented after the colonizers brought Black folk to Cuba, to DR, and all the places. And so every area has their own variation and twist. So my experience though, so Ifa is like one of the like overarching, not into the sect. So not everybody has to participate in Ifa to get into Santeria, but oftentimes like that's like the first step, and then people go through their year in white is what they call it for Santeros. So I am not a Santera, I'm not in Santeria, but my experience with that was just the decolonization of growing up in a 7-day Adventist household, which is a different kind of Christianity where like it's closer to Judaism.
Oh shit.
So and more like Hasidic Jewish, like Friday night once the sun goes down, you're not supposed to take transportation, you pay for money, you're supposed to wear skirts as a woman, like it's a bunch of stuff like
Quédate en la
that.
casa. No,
It's a, you know, like it's a religion that requires a lot. And it never felt right. And I think what I appreciate about all African tradition religions, even outside of Ifa, is that in reality, the belief is God is in you, because you are a creation of God, and because God is in you, your responsibility is to connect with yourself and your highest good so that you can show up on the planet for the reason why your soul decided to be here in the first place, right? So it isn't about, and this is the God that did this, and because they did this, you know, and
So there's no
worship.
praying to somebody.
There's praying, but it's praying with you know, saints, and you know, God is God, like God is God the same way God is in other religions. But in the way that Catholics have like santos, there are saints, right? So we know the Yemayas, the Ochuns, the Changos, the things that are now being popularized, they choose you, right? And they become your head to help guide you for your own soul's mission. It's not, I owe Chango, my head is Chango. I don't owe Chango something because I am a social justice warrior. Chango represents justice, right? And so, like, because that's my purpose, that's my head, and he helps me. He moves me forward. And so the praying and all the stuff that we do, it's for me, but it's also for my purpose on this planet, not because he's Chango and I should just worship him just because.
Oh, so it's like
Does that
more
make sense?
motivation towards yourself to do what you need to do.
Yeah, it's for your soul's purpose.
I like
You're
that.
good. It's
I
about
like that
you.
theory,
It's
though.
very it's very reflective and inward, and also grounded in keeping a community
I
together.
never heard of that. But
Yeah,
because you fucking stuck on TikTok, nigga, following those. You stuck on those white people mantras and shit.
Yeah. There's lots to learn. There's lots to
pretty
learn.
dope.
I encourage people to do their research, and you know, these things have been demonized, but I think for most things that have been demonized, you should always look at the other side of the story and just understand it. You don't have to walk away agreeing with it or liking it or even do it, because you can't just say, I want to be an Ifa, I'm gonna be an Ifa. You have to ask permission. And there are people who get turned away and they're like, what? And it's like, yeah, you don't need this. This is not part of your life path.
That's it. Move on.
Move on.
You're not down with us. You're not down with us.
Yeah, we're not out here knocking on people's doors on Sunday trying to get people to do what we do. No.
Santeria
Right.
parties be popping.
Hell yeah, that's true.
Tambors, them
That's true.
drums.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Definitely better than a Catholic mass.
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
You'll see some shit at a tambor though. That's why people be scared. That's why they be like, no, it's el diablo.
I've been to a Santeria's party and they like Dika possessed a little girl or something like that.
Muchachos.
And she was just rolling around the floor saying numbers and they were like, write down the numbers, write down the
Yeah.
numbers. Whole bunch of people play those numbers. The next day, nobody won. Pero it was a ball though. Good food. It was crazy. Yeah, it was lit though. It was
I
super
hope the
lit.
little girl had a good time too.
Yeah.
Esa chamaquita salió de Trujillo.
Dirty as well. Like, coño, come on. Yeah, but it was lit.
Oh man, no. So yeah, I asked because considering you mentioned it again, and in the show, you know, there's subtle hints, and not subtle. I mean, they're fucking there, because you do touch on a wide on a broad number of topics. However, at its core, it is the solidarity of families, you know, in love and all that kind of stuff. But those other things that you touch on, like even something like the cab driver and him going through, you know, the colorism thing between now, because in 2001, you know, yeah, it's united country, but there's a certain group of people that motherfuckers were demonized, you know what I mean? And so being in the cab industry, he shared his experience of talking to his brother, who, you know, by brother I mean a friend cab driver that's Muslim, and you know, people ready to go off on fam, and he's like, nah, this was like a really forward, progressive thinking Dominican father, by the way.
Yeah, who's based on my father? Because a lot of people, after watching Vamanos, was like, "Who's that? That's not my dad." And I'm like, "Well, that's my dad."
This person does exist.
Ese tigre de verdad.
He got a belly though.
Shout out to you to making your dad look.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my dad loved the casting. He was like,
Oh yeah, that's right. She did a great job on the casting.
Igualito.
Like legit, you know, from the 2 blocks, it was mad praise that I was walking. I was like, yo, but I was like, coño, man, they couldn't even give him like a little pregnancy belly or something.
I cannot wait to have sis and listen to this and be like, next time we do it, get ready. I'm gonna put a belly on you.
No, bro, like commit to the character, bro. Right?
No more gym, bro. No more gym.
Nah,
No more
man.
shit.
But you know, and so all that to share that from that experience, given that it was my first exposure to a Dominican show, it was beautiful, like super beautiful.
It was mine too. And I've done many shows, and your show was the first Dominican show I
Wow.
saw.
Has there been a lot of Dominican shows?
Not in
They-
American theater.
Yeah,
as
not
much.
in American theater, but there are some that are Spanish language, right? So, like, again, like I say, they treat them like stepchildren. But there are amazing Latina theater institutions in New York City and throughout the country. And they produce works, and I'm not the first Dominican, but also during Vamonos, right across the street at MCC Theater, was Bees and Honey, which was a Dominican play based off of Juan Luis Guerra's Como Abeja al Panal.
Oh, wow.
Which is why it was called Bees and Honey, right? So like we was right across the street from each other, and that was monumental. So it was 2 Dominicana Afro-Latinas, but then Kristen Cato, who opened earlier in the theater season with a show called Sancocho, she's also Afro-Latina. So it was 3 Afro-Latinas debuting at the same time off Broadway. That has never happened.
Yes,
Oh,
that was
wow.
a first.
So we were making history.
Yeah.
So we made history in that way. And it's beautiful because there are people who didn't see Vamano who saw some of the other ones and vice versa. But truly what started to happen is once people started to notice that there were 3 shows, they started to go. And so people like you who aren't theater goers suddenly walked away this year having watched 3 plays.
Wow.
I did hit Bees
Wow,
and
that's
Honey.
that's amazing.
We hit Bees and Honey, and obviously yours. The other one we did not check
Yeah, it was
out.
it was so
It was in
much
March.
earlier in the season that I think before, like, because, you know, word of mouth in our community is real fire.
Right.
But they started the word of mouth that also helped ignite what Bees and Honey and I were able to get audience-wise.
I enjoyed Bees and Honey, and this is probably like the bad thing about having 2 Dominican shows, and people begin to compare and contrast because, you know, we don't all live a universal life.
And that's a love story. That's not,
and totally different. So but once again, because of maybe the time period, the space, the storytelling, I definitely felt closer to yours. But I will say this: Bees and Honey, I didn't feel like it was in Washington Heights. I felt like it was in Westchester.
The apartment was really nice.
I was like, yo, whose fucking crib is
spacious.
this? Like, these motherfuckers keep saying they indictment, they not indictment.
Plush.
But low key, there's some apartments up here that look
No, seguro.
big as fuck.
But
the old school joints that people's grandmas be holding.
Pero they were not
rooms.
decked out the way that this was decked out.
Yeah, it was
more
beautiful,
like
but
modern.
and it was definitely more modernized. But what I will say, a couple of things on that. One, like, I think that's why teams that are super diverse and close to the works, because like I could have got a Dominican, but if I got a bougie Dominican who grew up their whole life in fancy New Jersey, they wouldn't have been able to do that set design. But Rodrigo, not Dominican, right? But Latina who has lived in an apartment like that can look at the script and say, "Oh, my apartment got you."
That shit right there.
And I right now cannot remember who was the set designer for that other show, but I do know that part of the intention there was to show for the girl character who was a lawyer that she was still living in the Heights, but she was so deep in her success that she had remodeled her shit y que ella vivía, tú sabes, vivía bien, contrast to her boo Manuel, que era un mecánico, que lo que era, so it was part of that. But, and this is not towards Beads and Honey, this is a general commentary. When you get pieces like ours in predominantly white institutions, oftentimes they are mishandled, but that's why there are groups like Latinx Playwright Circle, you know what I mean, Soul Project, that are created to then come into these institutions and say, you need a co-producer and it needs to be us because you're white.
Yeah,
Plain and simple.
It's that simple. And it can't be an artist. Or I feel like it needs to be someone that can protect
Yes.
the artistic team.
Yes.
So it can't be the artist trying to confront the challenges that the white producers bring. It has to be another Latina producer that confronts that.
Yeah,
with them.
that's in those rooms and
Yeah,
are advocating,
exactly.
you know what I mean? And ironically, I have a relationship with MCC Theater. I used to be in their youth company and I worked for them. I worked for that theater in their youth programming and was helping design and implement all these things. And, you do as much as you can to serve institutions, but when the institutions fall short in serving you back, like, you just have to understand and be able to be like, I like it that buena, soy yo.
Moving on.
Are you ever
Is that
thinking of
right?
taking the show on the road? Once
I
this
would
actor
love
thing
to.
happens, right? Once this gets lifted.
I would love to, and I would love to because, now living in Denver, right? Like, I recognize that los dominicanos están por todos lados, right? We're
In
there
Denver.
in Denver. Matter of fact, when I get back to Denver, it's the weekend of the Dominican Bachata Festival.
Shout out to Denver.
Pero I went last year, let me tell you, there must have been 15 Dominicans. Everybody else said, I'm Mexicano, and something else, pero esos Mexicanos bachatean.
Oye, con cojones.
Nosotros sí nos gustan la bachata.
Yeah,
I try to get him
diablo.
to dance, but he doesn't want to.
But it's a beautiful experience, and I recognize that if as an artist who really truly, I create because I think representation matters, and I think storytelling and stories that exist are what saves people's lives. You know how many young men in our community identify with Will Smith? Why he don't love me, man? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you think about it, and it's like, but think about how many motherfuckers felt so deeply healed in that moment because Will Smith cried in that moment, right? And I'm like, yo, there are stories that are ours, and it doesn't have to start with how much money am I going to make, how many followers I have. It has to start with who do I want to help save? Because this planet is burning. Who do I want to help save?
It's true.
I want to help save my people, and not just my Dominican people, but my people. But I'm Dominican, so what I'm gonna bring is Dominican, and it can resonate with whoever.
That's right.
Amen.
Eso es bomba y bomba.
Y tiro.
Yo, but and talking about who you saving and all that, like there's a significance of being in a room and it resonating not only from the story but the audience members too, because on a lot of the shows we go, a lot of the productions that I've attended in theater, it's nothing but a sea of silver gray hairs.
Oh my God! It's killing the American theater right now.
Literally.
They're eating their dinner right now. Or what is it? They made their bed. American theater made their bed back in the what was it? The 40s, 30s. It was a big giant. So quick history lesson in theater.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So it was it's part of the New Deal back after the Depression, and you got to fact check me on this. But the president at that time, he basically dumped a lot of funding to the arts, and a lot of regional theaters got that money, and then the regional theater model was created. And so later in time, this is a really crude summary of this history, but later in time, these regional theaters depended on subscribers to be their model for funding their seasons. And who are those subscribers?
Got it.
Yep.
And so
Older
they're all-
white people. And they're not going to the theater anymore. So now it's drying
It's falling
up.
apart. It's
falling
drying.
apart.
It's drying up. It's falling apart. And I'm noticing a trend where it's like a gift and a curse. Now everybody's like, oh yeah, this is the perfect opportunity to give somebody else, hey, black person, do you want to take over this institution? Do you want to lead?
Yeah.
And it really bothers me because the American theater did not need to be at the great risk it is at now if they would have handed it over sooner.
If they would have shared it.
Yeah, because
They didn't share it.
and I say hand it over because I'm just so tired of the
Yes.
remakes and whatever. Just give it to us, right? But you're absolutely right. It's a share, right? Because there are plenty of white stories that have impacted me as a little Dominicana in the Bronx that I appreciate, right? But I have that same story, my version, my detail that needs to be heard just as much,
Yes.
and I don't need to see our town for the 15th fucking time.
No one needs to see our town anymore, or Shakespeare for that
it's a
matter.
play, brother.
I
It's
would
a
argue.
play.
That play
Theater
talk.
isn't even white. Like theater. I say, first of all, I always say I would love to know what Dominican theater looked like. Like, what was it like? What was you sitting around fires?
Yes.
Haciendo cuento.
Oh
and
my
vaina?
God.
Like, we
Yes.
are theatrical people.
Yes.
Latina people, black people. And I'm so sure. I don't know the fact checking on this. Who on TikTok knows where theater really started from?
I'm actually.
Because I don't believe.
I have
Where
to
did it
figure that
start
out
from?
White.
because I'm teaching this in the fall, and
Oh.
it's my new class. So, like, they gave me the history of storytelling and theater, and I was like, "Coño, what?"
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm trying to find sources and trying to compile something that's not the Western,
Yes.
or not completely the Western theater, because we are working in a very Western American theater right now, and
Absolutely.
I want to reimagine what that is.
Yeah.
But I'm also wanting to know, like, what are the origins of theater history aside from over there in Europe, the Shakespeares and the blah blah blahs. Like, what was the around the fire and the storytelling, and how did that shift and evolve, and what can it become now?
Now,
How
yeah.
can we build our own institutions, or not even institutions? I don't like the word institution, but how can we build our own stages and our
Yeah.
own spaces
Yep.
to share our stories?
Yeah, it's honestly just a matter of, like, now that everybody's getting this handoff, we're gonna see what we can do about saving theater. Here's what worries me: there are more people in our community who have your experience with theater than otherwise. So we create things, and if we don't get enough of our community to come
Yes.
out, it
Oh my
won't
God.
succeed, and it'll
Yes,
make
right.
the case.
Yeah,
and
that's
so-
a huge challenge.
Yeah.
But that's what really drove me to wanting to build with you in exchanging, you know, aside from the pleasantries, it's the fact that it felt genuine and organic, because on many other occasions that you do go to support, it's like, yo, I don't give a fuck about supporting. I want to go to see something I like, you know what I mean? Something
right.
I really
Yeah.
enjoy.
Absolutely.
So, and it's like, why is it also that these shows that are being put have to go through the producers and the directors that are white? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the
And
hand
Por lo
holding.
cualto, es por lo
Cualto,
cualto.
money.
Because when
Yeah.
you have money, you can produce whatever.
Yeah,
You
that's
know what
the
I mean?
goal.
It's really that. And theater don't pay nothing. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Even Lin-Manuel, when In the Heights was on Broadway, probably made a pretty penny for what we come from. But compared to what
Yeah.
you make in Hollywood, es una mierda.
Una mierdita.
And that's everybody. Black, white, whatever. That's everybody. Es una mierda. And so the institution and the way it has been, part of it is that for certain theaters that are nonprofit, they have to answer to these boards, and these boards are the same silver wave that you're seeing there. And if they don't want to see something, or if they're threatening to pull a big funding of something, they're going to say no to the artist. They don't care.
Right.
Damn.
It's true.
So you as a Dominicana from the Bronx, like, what motivated you to go into this
theater.
Yeah. like, yo, because
So
you.
why this burning
Why
house?
did I-
Yeah,
right.
Esa vaina se está quemando y todo.
Y yo ahí metida, Chile, bebiéndome una fría,
Aquí
tranquila.
me voy a acomodar.
You know, honestly.
Es una casa, está buena.
Yeah.
Pues,
No,
hay madera.
Pero lo que pasó fue, really for me, was 8th grade. We had a woman come in she did like a week-long workshop thing, and she was doing poetry, and I wrote my first poem and I performed it, and she was like, you're a performer. And I was like, oh, I'm a performer. What does that mean? And then she was like, oh, you should audition for this school, LaGuardia High School, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you could get in. I'm like, I don't even know what this is. Fine. Throw together a monologue, show up very unprepared, boom, get into that school.
Oh, shit. Congrats.
Suddenly, thank you. Suddenly, I'm in the world of, theater.
Theatre.
And I don't know shit about it. Had never seen a Shakespeare play. I didn't know shit about shit. Matter of fact, my monologue was Raisin in the Sun. Hadn't even read the play. Just went and saw which had the biggest chunk and was like, that's a monologue. I'm going to memorize that one. And so for me, it was more of the encouragement of a strong Black woman in my life, seeing something for me that I had no access to and inviting me into that, and my having supportive family and friends that, did what they had to do to get me to that point. And then while I was in high school, that's when I learned theater. And when I graduated, honestly, I was like, yo, fuck this shit. I don't like it. It's too white. I was already being told, oh, you can only play like the best friend or whatever. I was being typecast. I'm like, I can never play Juliet, that I can never play this. That esa vaina me tenía eléctrica. And I'm like, I don't like this shit. Turns out, though, that right on the precipice of me graduating, I had, through MCC Theater, also joined a playwriting program. So then I was like, all right, sure, because I don't want to play none of these shows that I'm reading. Maybe I'll write some. And I had written my first play. It was called Daniel, take place in Washington Heights, right? And it was about an abuela who was raising her 2 grandsons because her son, it was locked up because he was a drug dealer and he was doing some heavy shit and blah blah blah, whatever. But it was like the story about love and how generationally women both hold it together, but sometimes are the ones who perpetuate the worst stereotypes that keep the toxicity in the family. Before Encanto, y'all, I was writing Encanto before Encanto. We still haven't seen it. We still haven't seen it. You know what I mean? And so for me, like, the response to that play, and that play was read in a very white space. And I remember, like, the actors I had were like white Cubanos playing the Dominicans. Like, it was a very jarring experience.
Son más blanco que blanco.
Yo, yeah, and it was a very jarring experience to be like, damn, I don't need. To me, I was like, yo, there's no Dominican actors. Like, we don't exist. It felt like.
No one.
And we weren't on TV either, really, at that point. So I was like, diablo, nada más los cubanos, los boricuas, los mexicanos. Pasado de ahí, nadie existe. And it made me angry enough to want to continue. So it is not because, theater is, American theater, and I love musical theater, and I'm not that girl. I'm just the girl who came into the room and was like, nah, y'all missing me, porque la que está buena soy yo.
Yes.
But clearly you had some natural talent.
Clearly, right? Like, but others had to see it, right? Yeah. And then after that, it really just became about the justice of taking up the space that I knew we deserved. And I'm still in that space. And that's why I'm a person of duality. Yes, I'm an artist and a creative, but I also work in the tech industry and other stuff because I still got to eat. I still have to make sure that I have income. But like, my mission is that everybody should tell their story, because everybody's story is meant to be heard to save someone else. You just don't know who that person is, and you don't have to know. You don't. You just have to do your job and tell your story in any way. It don't matter how you tell it.
You mentioned something about like women being strong and all that good stuff,
yes.
right? Pro women.
Pro women, pro women.
I'm just joking. Strong women. Number one, Herstory month is over. Fuck that noise. I didn't even know you had a I tease, but I do say this. I share, like, in all seriousness. When we go to the shows, it does hurt me to see that there is, and I don't know if you see it, but all I see is women. And I see none of my brothers there. Like,
as an audience.
As an audience. Yeah,
because they not making theater that you're trying to fuck with, and that's not your fault.
And so that's exactly what
it's a programming challenge.
You don't want to fucking waste money.
No.
You don't want to watch.
Because I wanted to hear that, and thank you for sharing that, because it is that. You know what I mean? So sometimes as a Dominican creative, I feel like, damn, man, we should just show out, period. Pero si la gente no saben, if heads don't know, then or they think it's gonna be the stereotypical, or it's gonna be that same type of flow and format, they're not gonna be interested, and they don't feel invited, they don't feel welcome. It's not their vibe. You guys, on the other hand, have made it a mission, and so I applaud you for that. Pero when I do look into the audience, and I'm like, wow, man, I see the solidarity of women showing out, but none of my brothers, estos tigres no quieren irse a la esquina,
not even on dates. Not even on dates.
Not even on, like, yo, man.
They need to use that as
there culture. The culture exposure, but I was shocked because like Vamonos at first, the audience was very female heavy. And I think once it lit up and people started talking about it, and it was like the first bro was like, yo, bro, that shit was actually kind of fire.
Manito, you gotta go check that out,
Estaba
bueno.
Even one of my cousins who was here from DR, like ratata, does not give a single fuck about theater, was like, hey, ¿tú escribiste esa vaina? Estaba buena. Estaba buena. You know, but it is also, I think, because sometimes the characters, again, aren't on stage to connect with in the first place, right? And also I did a careful job of making sure that because I wanted these men to come, they weren't going to come if all I did was put Dominican men on stage and chastise them as we often see in art. We can't.
That's tiring.
That's why it was important for me to be like, no, my dad is this way. I know he's not the common Dominican man, pero coño, come see this play and meet him, because there are other people like that, and come see these young men who are not tigres. They have hearts. They're soft. And if I wish I would have had a counter. The amount of man who was in there crying at the end, like tearing it out, night after night, you know. And we even had men who, again, people who I don't know, but I would see that they came back one time and otro day, I was like, I've seen you before. I was like, are you in theater? He's like, no, I just came the first time with my girl. Then I came the next time with my girl and her mom's. Now I'm here with my mom and my sister.
I got the whole family.
And like he kept, because he connected. And so I think that like Vamonos is an introduction to what other people can do to start inviting more audiences in. But also we did more than just the play. We were doing activations and events that look a lot more like the vibes of what we already know uptown and for regular networking events, because I'm like, yeah, they're coming to a show, but we gotta celebrate. So we gonna have parties, we gonna go straight into the spaces, we gonna give out discount codes everywhere. Like, people need to come, and we need to understand and respect that this is their first time, so we gotta be gentle and we gotta hold space for what they need and what this space means to them. So I hope to do it again, and I'm gonna keep writing these stories, and I hope that the men who did come to see this trust that as a creative, I'm able to repeat an experience that is worth them coming out to see again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a couple of them was repeatedly going over there.
Yeah,
I'll make sure I take your notes.
Yeah, let me know. Please, definitely let me know.
But because it is one of those things that, you gotta. There are a lot of objections you got to overcome from people, and especially people of color that, I'm tired from work. Oh, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Man, they ain't no bitches there. What I'm gonna do that? Like,
let me tell you, there's you trying to bag bitches? Go to theater.
I was like, ¿y cuántas mujeres?
Well, this was also at the Bees and Honey event that we went to, which was the Dominican mixer.
Yes.
It was like 95% women. And everyone was pretty fly.
I was
have
like,
to say.
don't see gay.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm like, is this how this shit always is?
these cisgender straight men.
Because they don't track black and brown males into theater. They like to just track us into sports and stuff, which is nothing wrong with that. We're very athletic and we belong in those spaces. But like, nobody looks at a black and brown dude from the Bronx and says, yes, let's indoctrinate you into the American theater. Because what role are you going to give them? There are not enough plays like Vamonos and things like that to cast them in the first place. The space has not been properly created.
No, and on top of that, I will say, as an audience member, I have now learned, not to be uncouth. I've learned the ways of being in the room. But in the beginning, I was like, I need to take a picture. I'm hyped. I want to cheer. I want to get excited with the show. Now I'm like, but with your show, I felt like, okay, I can just be.
You could do that.
But with other shows, I'm like, no, entonces, ¿qué estoy haciendo aquí?
That was a very big thing for me. I was like, we need to know, like, even like the first few, when we were in previews, me and the director, me and Tatiana would sit there. We'd be like, we're going to laugh mad loud so people know they got permission. Yeah. So shit would happen, and Tatiana has the best laugh. She does. And the people would be like looking at us and they're being like, oh, who's that making noise? And then they would see it's me and the people who made it, and then they're like, There was one night where people were like, dale una pela coño. People, there was one night I was like, yo, what? Madhouse, and it was one of the best fucking nights.
I love shows like that. They're the best when you get they're engaged 1,000% engaged into it.
The actors were like, oh shit, the audience is participating.
They threw them off a little bit, like, what?
Yeah, because there's an annoying little cousin character, and somebody was like, dale una pela ya. And then we all laughed as a collective, because like at the end of the day, live theater is theater, and we want to be in performance, and we want to preserve and respect what the artists are doing. But what I loved about my cast is that they understood understood the assignment. This was bigger than just, oh, they're having their first off-Broadway debut. This is, oh, our community, this is the first time our community is going to have something like this. So we got to have fun.
We got to go ham. Yeah.
We just got to have fun and not think about the rules. There are no rules. This is the first time. The rules will come after.
Yo, you
Yeah. You just
I don't know how
it.
often you have played like an Ellen DeGeneres interview in your head or some shit. 'Cause your shit is on point. I don't know if you got this shit scripted for every occasion.
I don't.
Yo,
It's
you
just
are
that
on
shit
point.
from the
soul,
That's what I was gonna say.
From the soul.
That's my inner fire. That's my soul's purpose, I think.
No.
Yeah.
¿Cómo se llama el santero tuyo?
Hey, oh, my head, Chango.
You was
Chango.
fucking
No,
born
ese
for this.
tigre.
Shout out to Chango. Shout out to Chango.
You are amazing.
You are
You're
amazing.
I appreciate
you
that.
are.
He was born for this shit.
Man, like I liked your show, but now I'm in love with what you're doing. I
you.
love what you
Thank
got
you.
going on. Yo, fire, man.
Fire.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Now I'm excited.
may the future of theater be more of what you're sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you for all of
Absolutely.
us.
More of that.
Shout
for
out to
all
that
of us.
teacher that
Yeah.
put you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
motivated
crazy.
you there.
She honestly, she came in for a week. I don't even know her name. I wish,
God,
Oh
find
damn.
it.
I wish I knew her name. That's all I could
Shout out
say.
to
But
her.
I just know I stand on the shoulder of people who give back to their community and make sure that the young people and the people who come behind them know who the fuck they are. And that's what she did in that moment. She was
Yeah,
like, no, you are a performer.
She sparked some shit.
Absolutely changed my life. Because before that, I wanted to be mayor of New York City.
No way.
Pero que los políticos joden mucho. I love, excuse me, I know there's políticos that, not everybody's, but it's a game that you have to play, and I
Yes.
had no interest in being coof in a space like that.
Yeah.
It just wasn't gonna happen.
You gotta play a role.
Yeah.
You gotta put a mask and a
That's
suit on
another
every
theater.
time.
That
Yeah,
you gotta,
that's a different kind of theater.
Another theater.
that's a whole
Absolutely
different
right.
theater that you
Yeah.
gotta roll
Yeah,
with.
politics is
It's a
theater.
theater. It's
Yes.
theater.
The stakes are way higher.
Hell yeah. That shit is super theater.
Oh man.
Can I
That's
ask
amazing.
you what took you out to Colorado?
Absolutely. I made it out to Colorado because during the pandemic, I realized that I was in a cycle of feeling unworthy and stuck in what my life was going to be moving forward. I was like, all right, I'm just going to have to find a regular basic dude from the Bronx, marry him, and like figure
There's
out
nothing wrong
whatever
with dudes from the Bronx.
There's nothing wrong.
I just moved
There's
it 2
nothing
years
wrong.
ago.
I love my Bronx men. I love my Bronx men, but but this is what I'm saying about being in a negative mindset, right? Like I was unhappy with the circumstances of what was probably just gonna be my life, and I was sitting in my Parkchester apartment, and I was just like, yeah, I don't even want to be here. Like, I'm mad that this crack is in the wall. I'm mad that I walk outside and near the pile of garbage there's the rats. I'm mad that, like, I was just like, I cannot be here. But then I was like, damn, but I'm gonna leave? That's mad whack. I'm gonna stay in New York. And then my godmother, actually in Ifa, one day she was like, why are you lying to yourself? You don't want to be here? And I was like, yes, I do. And then that night I had a very visceral dream, and I was like, you don't want to be here.
And you picked up and bounced?
God damn.
She said to me, after she ended that conversation, she said, you're going to pick a date when you leave, and when you figure out when you want to leave, you're going to let me know. And I was like, all right, whatever. That day I was like, all right, I need to be out of here by December 1st. December 1st, 2021, I need to be out of here. I moved in January only because I wanted to stay for the holidays, because I realized, oh, well, that's not smart, because you're going to go and then come back.
After New Year's and the talk about being mad dramatic. I'm out this bitch. Yeah. Came back next week. Right after New Year's.
So I was like, nah, I gotta make like an exit.
Yeah,
so,
you gotta make a critical exit. Yeah.
But I did, I left, and then, but by January 4th, I was on a plane to Colorado.
What made you pick Colorado?
So I had been there several times. So I enjoy marijuana, and the first time I went to Colorado was a week after they opened the dispensaries, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna go because I'm gonna get mad high. I got there, and I arrived at night. That morning when my friend drove us, because we were gonna go up to the mountain to the cabins to do edibles and like snowboard and whatever.
Oh shit.
I didn't snowboard.
Sounds like very
It'll sound really.
That wasn't my sport. But we drove, and like we were like driving, and you had seen like two mountains, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. And we did this turn, and there was this massive valley in these mountains, and I was like, this shit looks like a fucking calendar. This shit is crazy.
And you was on
Green
the
screen.
edible.
And I was on the edibles
God.
plural.
HD right there.
You know what I mean? And I was like, and I tell turned to my friend and I said, I think I could live here. And he was like, and I was like, I think I could live here. And I went back 7 more times after that over the years.
Wow.
So when I had that moment and I had that dream, I saw mountains again. And I was like, I need rest and I need restoration.
Oh shit.
And I think that can happen in this space where I don't know. I don't have friends in Denver. I don't
That's
got nobody
exactly
in
my
Denver.
next question.
No, yo me fui a lo loco.
Lo 15 Dominicano.
Yo, you can't imagine my mind. ¿Pa qué te vas a meter para allá, muchacha?
You're giving me so much inspiration.
Everybody was like, yo, go to Jersey. What you
That's
talking
what
about?
I
We got
was
mountains
Jersey.
here.
You're like, there's nothing for me in Jersey.
Yeah, and I'm like,
So how long you got living over there?
a year and a half now.
And you went over there, no friends, no nobody. You
Yeah,
just
nobody.
landed, dime, llegué.
My parents flew out
Like,
with
what
me
a
and they
story.
were like, pero esto está caro, esto está igual que Nueva York. Because Colorado is not that cheap, right? But they thought I was moving how people go to Florida in the South to like, you know, and I was
Yeah,
like, no,
yeah.
I'm really here from mountains. And they're like, who raised you?
That is amazing. I ain't gonna lie. That's,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Fuck
yeah.
that.
So it was really that, just peace and harmony. And I do believe that if I didn't go there, I would not have had the energy and the restoration to write Vamonos and finish it. It wouldn't have happened.
Need a little getaway.
Yeah.
What's your life there like now?
So my life there hasn't really been there because, you know, the process of Vamanos
You
is
keep coming back to see El Tigre que te jodió. No?
Hermano, digo tigre del Bronx. No me deja quieta.
Mira, right before I started Vamanos, I was like, hay que soltar el tigre.
Este tigre va para Colorado conmigo. No.
Hay que soltar el tigre. You know, and it's really, no, it's really the back and forth of creative work and then also in the line of work that I have over at Naya with Miguel McKelvey, Katie Longmire, Michelle Rojkin, who's an incredible architect from Mexico. Like, that work, and I was back and forth. So collectively, if I add up all the time I've actually spent in Denver in the last year and a half, I've only been there for 5 months physically.
Oh wow, so it's not
Little
much
vacation
time.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, getaway. That's
Y
nice.
caraqueta. But everything happens for a reason, and I don't regret the move. And I truly, truly believe that that's what I needed. And so, and any investment in something that you need to do, no matter how expensive, if you allow it to serve you and your soul the way it needs to, you will not care about the cost. Trust me.
That's true.
Trust me.
Yo,
Investing into
mo-
yourself.
motivational
That shit takes
speaking.
work.
I know.
Bro, that shit got my mind racing. Cause I gotta go back to South Bronx. And I was sitting in my apartment. I better have a fucking drink tonight. I was grab all my savings. I'm getting the fuck out. We're gonna do Just Words by Zoom, bro.
Yeah, no, pero es verdad.
No, es así que tú tienes que hacer la
Hay que
vaina,
hacer la
bro.
vaina así porque yo estaba un año sin trabajo. I went being broke. Yo no tenía nada. I
What?
wiped out. You said that and I'm looking at you like, oh, so you heard? I wiped out my savings to do it.
What?
And it was worth it. We live in a space. Listen, our parents who came here, for those of us who are first generation, second, whatever, to build something. And the truth is, it takes generations to build generational wealth. And they were not all collectively, as a people, going to be able to make it that far all together. There are some who have, some who haven't. For me, I recognize in that same frustration, my parents even deserve better. I deserve better. I can't make their better right now, but I can make my better for me. And if I'm good, perhaps then the abundance that flows out of my cup will be enough that then I can bless them. Maybe I will get them out of, because I'm from the South Bronx too. I'm from Soundview. My neighbor, right? But like that is it is necessary for us to feel connected to our highest good at all costs, because our highest good always flows in our favor, and the universe, whether you believe in white Jesus, black Jesus, you know, whatever, like it flows in your favor, but you have to give it permission. Yes. You have to be willing, because sometimes we're receiving blessings and opportunities, and it's us blocking that shit, talking about, oh, but the job, oh, but the this. ¿Quién te dijo que el trabajo, bills, even like your parents and people who, yes, are family, but you don't rock with them, they're not in your vibration. Who said you are condemned to a vibration that does not vibe with you?
Yes, right.
You're not. You have to chase the vibration that is for you. Otherwise, you're damning yourself. The world isn't happening to
It's true.
you.
It's true. Are you on TikTok?
No, and I'm not, because as much as I don't really like social media, I'm on there.
I'll fucking follow you right now. I swear to God.
People ask me that all the time, and you would
need to
think
be on something and give daily.
I I'm gonna try that.
Affirmations every fucking day. 'Cause
I will
right now, you got me
At least for
fucked
Dre.
up.
At
Yeah,
least
you
for
got me
you.
fucked
At
up.
least
The
for you.
only fans of affirmations.
Please, please.
Be very private.
I appreciate that.
Mira, mami, yo creo que yo me voy a ir.
Aquí, vete a New Jersey.
That's exactly what you're saying. That's exactly what you're saying. Para New Jersey,
Yeah, but if y'all are ever in Colorado a la Olding, like, please.
Damn, that's
I
what's
love to
up.
show people around.
Okay, one more question.
Absolutely.
I don't know where we are on time.
Wait,
But
wait,
do you have
where's
these
the-
conversations with your parents at all?
Say that again.
Do you have these conversations with your parents?
Which, or like, in terms of like yourself
Yes, of yourself, of like what you shared about the vibrations and if the vibrations
Yeah,
don't serve
my
you,
mom,
and also
Ajá,
like,
sí,
moving
mija.
forward.
Hay que nada más que orarle a Dios.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Habla con Dios. Ella te dice lo que necesitas saber.
Literally, it was just this week, just 2 days ago. My mom was like, because I was in Ghana, and she saw I was sending them pictures, and I was like drumming circles and ceremonies, and she's like, cuidado que tú sabes, ¿saben? And then I come back and I was like, mami, pero es que yo no soy cristiana. And she's like, claro que sí que tú eres cristiana. And I was like, mami, yo te dije que yo hago IFA. She's like, pero qué es eso? ¿Qué es eso? Dije, hija, no. And I was like, trying to explain it to her, and she was like, no. She didn't even let me explain it. She was like, no. Órale a Dios, órale a Dios.
Ora Dios, ora Dios, ora Dios. Dios sabe más.
I was like, I got you, mommy. I'm gonna keep praying.
Yeah, I was just trying the theories
Yeah.
of like
Dios
these
sí sabe.
conversations that are so fundamental if
Dios sí
they
sabe.
translate to our parents.
Yeah,
You know?
and they do in certain ways. But I think that for them, the language we now have is not the language they grew up with, and so it's a
Yes.
lot to take on at once. So I
Yes.
hold a
Yes,
lot
yes,
of
yes.
space and grace for all of my Dominican people who look at me like "Esta una loca."
Yeah.
About to say, ¿qué language tú estás hablando?
Cojones.
Coño, ¿qué es lo que estás diciendo?
Es que no entiendo.
Language. I was thinking we barely just getting a fucking under and overstanding of our shit right now. For real.
Yeah, that motherfucker's still saying "Rufo," el Rufo.
El Rufo.
Un polo shirt.
El Rufo. Una camiseta.
Sí.
Una camiseta.
Yo, bro. El toilet.
El toilet.
El toilet. No,
Es
inodoro.
Inodoro.
Inodoro. That's a different.
Yeah, I don't even know.
That's how you.
Inodoro.
That's how you say
Inodoro.
inodoro.
It's not toilet.
It's
It's
not
not toilet. What we say in Spanish?
El toilet.
El
El toilet.
excusado.
No, it's
El
inodoro.
excusado, ¿no?
¿Qué?
Inodoro.
Yeah.
Sí.
We don't use
You
that.
learn
And
something new every
no,
day.
it's mapo, it's swepe.
Swepe. No.
I heard swap it.
I said that shit by confidence. It's swapping. It's swapping, yeah, it's swapping.
Yeah. Oh, language.
Oh, man.
Oh, Lord.
I did want to know.
Yeah.
What took you to Ghana?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Shit. How miss whole Ghana? My bad. Fuck.
The motherland.
5 times.
I've been waiting.
Nobody said something about Ghana.
Yo,
What
my
took
bad.
you
My
there?
bad.
What was it
what was
like?
happening in
Word.
Ghana?
Forget everything I just said.
Rewind that
Fucking Ghana. Dime de
shit. ¿Qué pasó con
Ghana.
Ghana?
The motherland. Let me tell you something. Ghana was beautiful. So I went
Did you do like a
with.
23andMe or something?
So I have done that, but that's not why I went. But I did do that, and I do happen to have. So like I have like 5 different African countries that came out in my DNA. 13%, 13%, 13%, 13.
Come
Like
on.
you know, and then it was like Dominican indigenous 4%, and but that's mostly because in people like I love and honor our Taino people, but the truth is disease wiped out so many of them before, you know what I mean? Like the enslaved folks were brought over, so a lot of our DNA is predominantly African, not Taino. But it's not that we're not Taino. We are Taino, we are black, we're a lot of things. We're a lot of things.
Isn't it the Arawaks that are from?
And
so that
De lo do.
Porque I thought Taino is primarily from
Puerto Rico, but there were also Tainos in the Dominican
Ah.
Republic, pero también
Los
Arabs.
Well,
Arawaks.
even less is known about the
Even
Arabs. Yeah,
right.
that-
But que imagínate, that's what literally in DR is where they first landed. Don't say that shit's gonna get wiped out off the rip.
Tu sabes? No,
Yeah,
for real.
like-
No, absolutely, right? And so that
And by
just
they, I mean
surprised me.
colonizers.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So Ghana held 70% of the slave ports in the trade. So like that is like, it is the coast. It is a tropical place. So it was like being in DR. It was the trippiest shit when I got out the airport and I was like, oh, this looks, and we're driving and I'm like, pero ven acá.
Esto como Santo
You check your
Domingo.
ticket, you're like, but where did I fly to?
Even the architecture, like, you know, because similar climates and stuff. So
Yeah.
of course. But what I was saying before I get into there, how I got there was the Caribbean Cultural Center, Africa Diaspora Institute on 125th Street between Lex and Park. They had organized a spiritual pilgrimage with the God Box Foundation, which is a foundation in Ghana that like hosts excursions and different things for folks who are coming back, returning back to the motherland. So, you know, I went there because I was just like, shit, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I got to go to Ghana because I've always wanted to touch the continent. I never knew which country first, but something called me to Ghana, and Ghana is the first one that came up on my DNA list. So I was like, fuck it, no fuimos. I went with that group, and I've worked with that group on other projects and stuff. But the pilgrimage we took was really, it wasn't like, oh, like a cool tour. Like we was in villages, like walking in on like civilizations and people who have been private and are like, you know how you know, you see people with the straw skirts and like the things that seem like stereotype, but we like went to those places.
Oh shit.
And when I tell you that they are some of the most intelligent, passionate, clear-minded individuals that I've seen throughout Ghana. We visited a few of them throughout Ghana, and the message that kept coming up was like, we as a Black people were destroyed through our minds because there is no math, science, technology, advancement of civilization that the white man gave us that we needed. Only the one that they came and conquered with, right? And so I got to learn a lot about what that area and that region was before colonization, and it's tragic what they've done to us. And I think what's even more tragic is like we were going to certain museums and stuff, and there were books on those shelves that I was like, oh, am I gonna buy it here? Let me check on Amazon or somewhere else because maybe I'll just buy it here. And they don't even give us the books. And these are, you know, scholarly books. This isn't just a motherfucker trying to like preach something. And we don't even have access to the fucking books.
Our books, being also the presentation of them, like even something like Stolen Legacy, where it is written by like people of us and all that, they make sure that the publication doesn't publish them in a way where they look, you know, as authentic and as credible as other books,
Absolutely.
textbooks, that because it's a paperback bullshit ass cover, and it's like, it's just some motherfucker wrote it in Harlem, and so they don't give it that sense of legitimacy at all. So even though the text is real, the presentation doesn't have that integrity of like, all right, you know, listen, this is who you are, what you're about. It's like, nah, mira, a brother's selling it for $5 on the street. And like, that's the type of feel that they always give it. So that's another way too of kind of keeping you off of wanting to even be invested in learning about yourself too.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty wild, man. I mean, you know, when you went to the villages, did any of them, did you have a translator? Did any of them speak English?
Yeah, most of them speak English. So in Ghana, they say English is the language of business, right? Like of international business. So most people I encountered spoke English.
Wow.
Including the chiefs of these groups. But what's interesting, because we're talking about lineages of people who regard themselves as royalty, because they are. You know, and we got to interact with a lot of people who are of the Akan people, of the Ashanti tribe, which was 9 kingdoms that came together. And so they do this naming ceremony because in Ghana, your first name is based off of the day you were born, the day of the week you were born. So I went to a ceremony and I found out my name is Buena, right? I'm a Tuesday born. And when you look at that, like similar to zodiacs, when you go and you look at, so what is a Tuesday born? What's the personality? It's like reading your fucking zodiac. It's exactly aligned, or at least for me and everybody else who was on the trip. Everybody was like, oh shit. And we were like, oh, right. But then your last name is your family name, meaning who are you of in terms of our origins. So the way they find out your name is through divination. So they do kind of like how you see in Woman King when they have the thing and they're throwing the shells to speak to their God, right? So they go through that so that the ancestors can tell them and claim you and be like, no, es el mío. De aquí, de whatever, and they get it. So it turns out that according to this naming ceremony, I am a descendant of the oracle human priest person who told the 9 Ashanti kingdom people to unify because something was coming.
That's crazy. Which
That
is
sounds
basically
just
what
like
you
you.
do now.
That is you.
That's what you do now.
Yo, that's
You know, and so like I am a descendant of that, but like when you think about, and this is like, and not to bring it back to Vamanos, but being in Ghana validated what I did in Vamanos is we have to start talking about these traditions that have been demonized. We don't have to practice them. If you don't want to revoke white Jesus, don't revoke white Jesus. But if you say that as a human you don't have an intuition or inner voice or something that tells you something before anything else happens, you're lying. We all know that gut instinct that makes us hesitate and whatever. All these traditions are doing is asking people to connect to that voice because that voice is the voice of God.
And it's silenced quite often,
and it's completely
intentionally
silenced. You know, and so to me that is like the big message that I walked away with is that a lot of folks in Ghana, and there's Christianity, there's all stuff in Ghana. It's not that everybody practices the same religion, but there is this deep desire to reconnect with people from the diaspora, because they get a lot of African Americans coming back, but this group happened to be majority Afro-Latina, and that does not happen. And so for them, like, there were people who were like tears in their eyes seeing us come in, and they're like, welcome home. And they tell you all the time, they're like, whoever you're a descendant of, don't you think they wanted to get back home? Don't you think they wanted to return? Don't you think the ancestors are overjoyed that you stepped on a land that their spirit thought was never going to be touched again? And it's just like, and then we like, now we not black. It's so beautiful, like what we are of and what is true about blackness or Africanness or whatever. Because I know people are like, oh, don't call me black or don't. Whatever you want to call it, we are pure magic. We are pure magic. And we need to go back home to our roots, either physically, through our education, or just through our decolonization, even if we don't re-engage specifically with a particular African culture. But the culture that has been given to us has been one of capitalism and colonialism and being a cog in a wheel to keep something going that does not intend for you to be the victor. Right. So you have to really ask yourself, where is it that I'm investing my energy and even my travel and the time that I spend? Like, even I learn more in conversations with people in Ghana than I've learned in years of studies in schools, because people's personal experience and oral traditions is what we are from. And that is where a lot of truth is held, in those oral traditions, because they won't print it in the books. Or if it's in the books, they will make sure that the books don't get too far.
Yo,
Speechless, man.
Do you want me to change the background so I can call it your show?
In my hand, like, bro.
For real.
Wow.
No,
I'm fucking speechless, too.
Yo,
I'm gonna sit with this.
I'm
for
going
a
to
while.
Colorado and I'm smoking whatever the fuck you smoking.
Fuck that shit. You on a whole different level, yo.
Yo,
On a whole different level. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like,
holy shit! I need to find shrooms. I need to get fucking high. Yo, but it's mostly about how you articulated it. And because we can all kind of give that feeling and that sense, like, hey, we want to reconnect to something. We don't know what it is.
Right.
Because even yesterday I was having a conversation with someone and they were like, yo, you need to consider going back to DR and invest in DR. And I was like, I don't know, man. I am working hard towards just solidifying what we have here, because we're also being displaced here again.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we're being forced the fuck out again. And it's like, nah, man, I'm done. I'm done. This is where I'm laying down the fucking law. I'm in the capital of the world. I'm going to hold down this shit and plant my flag here. But then when I go to DR, like that, the colonization is still so deeply rooted.
So present. Yeah.
Like, like for me to go there and see a European brother that's in his 60s, 50s with a 14-year-old little young lady, and I'm like, yo, I don't need this shit in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's the constant use and abuse mindset, and people are there just on that servitude level, and I'm like, I'm not here for it. And then the hating against ID and the self-hate against black and self-hate against, you can have the blackest, darkest Dominican there, and he'll be like, but ese prieto del diablo, and like, yo, and it's like, it's what the fuck are we doing here, fam? So for me, I still haven't found that space where I'm like, yo, even my family, when they go there, they got servants and shit, and I don't like that vibe too, because the way that they speak to their servants or their help or whatever they want to call it, like, it's so less than, so it's not spoken to me organically. But the way what you shared in regards to your experience in Ghana, like, that is beautiful. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that we can't find that somewhere in DR or whatever, but for you to go from just your trajectory to go from experiencing your entire life being in South Bronx, shooting out and escaping out to Colorado, to then, finding your way to Ghana. I'm sure you've been to DR and all that. So.
I was in DR 2 days before Ghana.
Oh, that's right. I do remember.
Yeah, like, I literally did it like that. And just really quickly to what you said, a lot of those, the colonial presence is also true in Ghana.
Yeah.
And that also was very tragic to feel that. But there's just a difference between the people who were able to stay in their motherland. And so they have that motherland pride that for a lot of African American folks, it's like, yeah, go back to Africa. Where, motherfucker? There's where? You know what I mean? Like, is that really our home? Like, and it's not about home. And we don't always have to be there physically in order to allow the impact of the truth of knowing who we are to change our lives. It's that if you knew that you were from kings and queens and powerful stuff, but for a fact, not just, oh, that everybody says it. If you for a fact understood your lineage, you might be like, oh, I'm a descendant of what? That's an ego boost. I'm walking around like this. I'm like, I come from the motherfucker who told all the motherfuckers that these motherfuckers was coming. Ain't that some shit? Like, but to me, like that is it. That's it. Going back to storytelling, it's the stories we choose to tell. People are stuck in colonialism and we uphold it. You do not need to be white to uphold white supremacy, because it's a practice. It is not a skin color. It is a practice. It is capitalism. It is the way in which, organizations are pyramids rather than linear things. Like, it is the way in which humanity has to come second to production. Like, those are choices. We choose to allow that. And the people in both, countries in Africa, Dominican Republic, throughout the Caribbean, it is the interest of people who care about making money and being the best and being on the top, because they want to imitate the very people who oppress them, because they think that is their victory, because victory to us looks like how people have victored themselves over us. But our victory needs to be defined by what we deserve and what we are aligned to. And too many people are too scared to heal and go through the process of discovering themselves enough to create their own path and get out of the cogs of colonialism.
Yo, I am so sorry. I was about to fucking say last call for words a minute ago, and I
Wow, we would've missed a
I would have
big-
missed
a
out on
big,
this whole
big chunk
shit.
of- yeah.
Yo, what the fuck was I thinking?
Word up.
Yo, it's beautiful to hear you verbalize that and voice all of that. I mean, I'm just I'm not at a loss. I'm super fulfilled, because a lot of shit that I felt throughout my time, it's being reaffirmed. Like, yeah, that is it. This bullshit that we've been told is, outside of the basics, because, people will tell you, oh, que you were brought here and you were, from slaves. I'm like, como que from slaves? No, people were made slaves.
Yes.
No one
Right,
is a slave. People were made slaves. So you don't know who you really came from. And so all these things to kind of remove you from potentially being your best you. It's always to remind you that, you came from a fucked up shit, and where you at is actually at your best right now.
Right.
And it's like, wait, what you mean to trying to tell me I'm at my fucking ceiling?
And you shouldn't ask for more.
And and God
And that's the
forbid,
message.
like to this day,
Yeah.
and I share this story with you, like my aunts, and they'll be like, ¿qué es lo que estás haciendo ahora con tu vida? And we're like, mira, Rolando tiene un trabajito, él es un doctor, mira, te puede conseguir un trabajito mapeando. And I'm like, word, bitch, like this is what you think my highest fucking purpose in life is, to work at a hospital to go and mop? Like, and it's like, nah, man, you know what? I can't be mad at that person for not knowing, for not knowing any better. Like, because for them, getting to this country alone was the win.
Yeah.
And then once you're here, it's like, oh shit, what you
got
gonna
a job
do?
too? Shit, you super winner. Yeah.
And so these are the things. But I'm like, yo, that's not where it starts or it ends with me. And not to trying to separate from that direct family, but to say like, yo, we can all want better.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with wanting more. But that ideology of the que no, pero tú tienes que darle gracias a Dios por lo que tú tienes. And I'm like, nah, you know what? It's okay. I'm cool
want
with
more. I want more.
I'm sure that, and it's not that. There is more.
There is more.
And that's the
That's
thing.
a better way to word
you know
it.
what I'm saying? It's not that I want more. There is more, and it's being denied to me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it's not that there isn't, funds. There is not that there isn't access. It's that it's geared and driven in one direction, and all I'm asking is for it to be pivoted in this direction.
Right.
That's it. And is that too much? Mira, no te pongas a joder, que te, you get in trouble. And it's, so many years of black leaders, as soon as they fucking spoke strong, they got off too. And it's like, yo, we grew up on 164th and 165th Street. I don't know any of my brothers or sisters that have been to Audubon Ballroom where Malcolm X was shot.
Well, also, how often is it open
And
to
that's
the public?
and then that's another thing too.
Right.
So like, yo, I've Instagram DM and all that. I'll go and pull on that door. Oh, it's never available. And so even our stuff, our history, that's in our hood.
Yeah.
It's never open until it's a gala, and then the gala is only invited of the exclusives of it, and it's like, coño, so we keep gatekeeping each other too on top of that, and it's like, fuck this noise, man. I ain't trying to be at that table. Like, I'm down with building our own table. I'm down with bringing our own chairs. Like, fuck that. But this whole ideology of us consistently asking for fucking permission, ya estoy harto de esa mierda, man. So
yeah, because the thing is that too, a lot of people will be like, and when I get up there, then I'll turn around. But it's a pyramid scheme, because once you get up there, the way to get back is not as easy.
Right.
It's probably harder.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's like, literally, unless you have massive amounts of wealth that you have control over, you don't have an easy route back always, you know? And so some people feel like, I got to keep playing this game because I'm trying to make the big enough buck to then do this. And not everybody's going to make it there, and they're going to make sure of that, right? So we have to find ways that, you know, in our progress, we have to understand, what are we really aligned with? And for the motherfuckers who are really like, nah, I'm trying to get my bag and stunt on y'all motherfuckers, say it, and say it proud, and don't act like you're trying to do nothing else, because we don't got time to be fooled. And that's another thing. There's a lot of people, they say all skin folk and kinfolk, and is that if you are really driven by your own personal ego and your own personal progress, don't make it about black. Don't include it, because it's gaslighting your own community and giving them a false hope of how you're going to show up for them, and you're not going to show up for them. And that is okay, because we're not all your responsibility, but it is your responsibility to be an honest human. And if you don't want to be an honest human, you're going to have to answer to that.
Es que aquí todo se paga. My father would say, my father would say, there's no heaven and hell. Aquí todo se paga, bro.
Everything paid.
Hey, tú pagas todo aquí, because, all these people that lie, like hard fucking body, I'm here for the people, and yet they're giving their money right back to the Europeans by buying the European clothing, European vehicles, and all, and being with the European women and all that shit, and all that kind of like just, oh no, but I'm here for my people, blah, blah, blah. Get the fuck out of here, fam. And next thing you know, when they go hit A1, they broke and all that shit, and no one is loving them. They're like, I just gotta give you a little story and a little heads up. Fuck out of here, man. I don't want that bullshit. And that's another thing too. And so like that level of transparency, we don't, it's never been heard of, because on top of that, even the communication of how people can have that level of instantaneous communication. Why is it okay for us to be on all the social media platforms to just talk ratchet shit, but as soon as we're like, yo, pero mira, we're gonna get together to build, como que no, hoy no estoy pa eso. So today's not the day. And so it's overcoming those psychological,
because it's fear.
Yeah.
That's a fear. That's a fear of like, I'm going to cause this trouble, I'm going to do that. Nah. But it's also, they scared us good, because look what they did to Fred Hampton. Look what they did to Malcolm X. Look what they did to Martin Luther fucking King.
Shut a lot of people up with that shit.
So it is an inherent genetic fear that has been instilled in us over centuries. But I think that when people say, oh, get over it, it's not get over it, it's get through it. Yeah. Like, move through it, understand, feel all the feelings, all the rage and whatever, and come out on the other side as an individual and ask yourself, with the time I have left on this planet, what do I care about? What am I willing to die for or not die for? And be clear about your agenda. Be clear about your agenda. And honestly, and I hate to say this way, we don't have to be responsible for each other, technically, because we're all individual humans, and we die alone, and we get here one at a time. Even if you have twins, you come out one at a time.
Uno primero.
Right? One at a time, right? But the truth of the human organism, in the same way nature works, we are an organism. And it is in our favor to work with each other. It is in our favor to serve each other, make sure that everybody eats. It's in our favor. But people don't see it as a favor. They see it as there's not enough.
Scarcity.
That false scarcity mentality. And that's what it is. And the human organism thing, my favorite line from Blade Runner is when they're trying to figure out who's the android and who's human. And they say, how are we connected? Cells. And then they start breaking down how the definition of cells. So when we go to prison, we're in a cell. What we talk through is on the cell phone. What are we made out of? Cells. What is it that you like? So you start breaking all that kind of shit down. And I'm like, coño, pero mira. So we are interconnected one way or another.
Regardless.
Or mycelium.
We're mycelium.
We are like Avatar. Like the Avatar people, yeah.
La vaina que
But even so much so, right? Like that's a Native American story, but they can't make those people brown or red, so they make them blue.
It's only accepted if it's blue.
They gotta be blue. It only works if it's blue.
If you put brown or red people up there, it's a whole nother fucking problem.
It's a whole different movie.
And the movie was made by a white man.
Oh,
With mad money that he could have used to do something else.
But no, he chooses to go dive to the Titanic several times in a submarine.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
he went.
Oh, he was one of the people who had tried that thing.
James
La Vera
Well,
que se
he was the
He
one.
was one that-
No, he's the one that created the technology to actually go be the first one to go film down there before all that.
But he
shit.
wasn't on this last one.
No, he was like,
James
that's
Cameron.
sus.
That shit's so
So I'll use my submarine.
James Cameron, the director.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go for last call for words, summing up anything you like, pretty much. And so we'll start off with my brother Dre Drizzo.
I don't
Last
even know
call
where to
for words.
start. I don't even know where to start. Like, you are amazing. I ain't gonna lie. Your
appreciate
whole
you.
story, it was just amazing how you're like a risk taker. You know, you're like a fucking risk taker. That teacher told you that. You went, you ran with it. Having a dream going to Denver. Like, you are the epitome of somebody that should be speaking. Because a lot of people, I think like you, but are afraid to speak out like you. So we need people like you.
We need your oracle.
Yo, hell yeah. Like, literally, if you could text me like shit in the morning. Keep me going
Just share motivations. That's
definitely
it.
need,
That's
like,
it. Can be audio only.
something that can reach people every day. You know
Thank
what I'm
you, I
saying?
received
And
that.
please let me know any show that you're doing.
Yes.
Book, I'm copying.
He said,
I'm copying. Like, anything that you drop it, I'm copying. So
Google
just let me know.
alerts. Google
Absolutely.
alerts with your name.
Go tell the bros. Though.
Yeah,
Go tell the bros
tell
too.
everybody
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
South. South Bronx to copy
yo,
shit.
have you met any other shorties in the South Bronx that
No,
are
I'm
like,
staying away.
like, nah, because you should be meeting shorties like her out there, no?
Shit, that's right
don't
though.
do
You know what
that.
I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's right. I'm not even gonna say what fuck it. I'm gonna say I don't believe. I didn't believe shorties like that. What I see on my block, I'm just talking about my block. There's a lot of shaking, hookah. Yeah, there's a lot
Twerk too, for the record. I don't want to,
Oh, man.
I'm a Bronx
Shout
girl.
out to my hood. But it's yeah.
Oh, man. But thank you for those lovely words. Julissa, yo, it's been an absolute fucking blessing and pleasure to have you. Like, everything you've said has been a quotable, legit. I don't know if you live by these reaffirmations and all that, but yo, absolute props, man. Like,
Thank you.
So much props. So,
Thank you.
what would be your last call for words?
Yeah, I would say this as a universal message. You have to love yourself in order to know yourself. And I think everything that we are here to talk about and all these successes and blessings I've received had to come through a lot of pain, heartache, and recognizing that the pain and the heartache I was experiencing was also because I was not protecting myself like a person who loves me would protect me and take care of me and hold me. And in a world where we have so much going on, there's a lot of despair, there's a lot of shit going down, and it feels very hopeless. And we're getting back into a rhythm in the world, and we don't really know what the beat is right now, but we're all just trying to keep moving along. And I encourage anybody who feels any sort of way, any defeatism, anything, just try to reconnect with yourself and truly love yourself. And when that's hard to do, or when you feel like tú eres una mierda and it's not worth saving yourself, like, really ask yourself, well, so who told you that? Who created the standards that you are measuring against? Who gave you that ruler? And really invest the time in understanding why you're here, because yeah, you could do shrooms and stuff like that, and that's a quick way to quick trip and a woo and a life realization. But also, you don't need all that. What you need is time, space with yourself, and honestly, meditation. You just need to meditate. And I know that's it. And meditation don't gotta look like, meditation can be like, the Saturday morning, playing the music and cleaning. There are thoughts and things that come to you. Never deny the yes in your spirit, because the risk taking, yo soy una miedosa. I am such a punk. But when my spirit says yes, it is so loud that I know to do anything but what it says is going to harm me. I just gotta go, because God is calling through you through your intuition, and everything you pray for, you gotta walk to it. It don't just land on you. You gotta walk to it, and sometimes that walk looks scary and dangerous, but you gotta walk through scary things and dangerous things, so that when you get into these rooms that are lines, and especially for artists, Hollywood, that industry wants to eat people up. and chew you up and spit you back out. You gotta get there. You gotta be ready. How you gonna be ready if you just magically make it and you have no experience, dragging yourself through the mud and making it? You have to be able to stand 10 toes down, but you gotta walk on your feet for long enough to understand what that really feels like to be grounded. So ground yourself, love yourself, and don't let anybody try to tell you who you are. And if you don't know who you are, go find out. That is the most fulfilling thing you can do in your lifetime.
Thank God those bombs ain't limited. Damn.
So I think we'll end the show right there.
Your last words.
The lovely, honorable Lady H. Any last words?
I'm going to share this with my class on storytelling, if that's okay with your
Absolutely,
permission.
absolutely.
Be like, y'all got to listen to this. It's basically the foundation of storytelling, so go for it. But I have no words to follow that, aside from thank you for sharing and for reaffirming everything that right now is present in my life, in the sense of like I am choosing to do the decisions that feed into the intuition, that are going to give me that space for growth. And yes, sometimes those decisions are scary. No, those choices are scary. But I have faith and I know that it's going to serve me at the end.
Always.
It's going to serve not only myself, but my love over here. It's going to
Always.
serve my family, which is so important to me. Like that generational growth is so important to me. And only good things will come of it, but I can't express that as eloquently as you have. So I'm going to re-listen to this as well. Daily affirmations from Julissa.
I'm gonna start an Instagram just for Drake.
Yeah, please.
Not an Instagram, I mean a TikTok thing.
Hearing everything you're sharing is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
It's one of those things, for so long. It's one of those things like, I've shared, love of my life. I've shared with you how much power I know women have, and also the weight that women carry and all that kind of stuff.
Strong woman.
It's strong, and yes, and I joke about it a lot and whatnot because of what the mainstream strong woman's supposed to be.
Right.
And it's like I'm not talking about the fucking athlete and all that. No, it's, it's a woman that can really do what she wants to do, but then also remind people in a positive way that you have the power to do what you want to do too. And it's just that reminder, and because you guys are the life givers in literal and metaphorical sense.
The portal.
The portal, brother. It's the portal of life. And listening to you speak today was just another reminder of that. We have these conversations constantly, and a lot prior to doing this and prior to my life of seeking, I guess, a sense of center, and the way people are lost, period. And so figuring out how once I found within myself to like, all right, what is it that I truly want? If you want a partner to grow with, a partner to be with, and being with you made me so much stronger. And so hearing those type of words is just a reminder of the strength that women do possess. Because whether we say it or not, like what you did, the way you did, in essence, we try to live like that. I don't pray to a particular God. It's the universal laws of right for me, period. And all gods it is all love, and we're all one. And so I really... It's just so I'm just gonna go back to it. It's just beautiful to just hear you say all that, because it went from me going into a show that I was like, damn man, this shit might be whack because it looks like it's in a whack space. It ain't getting the type of love that it is. Oh man, if it's gonna be Dominican, they're gonna probably make it fucking Latino spicy Dominican. Esa vaina me encojona, right? And so you broke all of those fucking molds and those premeditated thoughts that I had in my brain, and all of those objections that subconsciously I do have when I'm like going to see a show, but you put me into that. So thank you for bringing me into that realm, the theatre. And then but thank you for creating that space and creating that content. And so with those two stars aligning in my life, it's something that enriched my life even further. And so I just want to thank you for that.
That means a lot.
And so because sometimes growing up here, in the hood, I didn't think about seeing further past the block. A lot of times niggas just hope for a brick to fall out the sky and sell it. And like, yo, you go back and you think like, what the fuck was niggas thinking? You know what I mean? Like, what were the ambitions? What was it that we wanted to do? What was the purpose? And so when you're talking about, you know, beyond self-discovery, but finding higher purpose and being okay with whether it's living for each other and living to grow with each other, but just being fulfilled, man, that's just some fucking crazy new talk. You know what I'm saying? And so I guess that's what it really encompasses the story, you know, the story of what I've been trying to do here with Just Words Nobody Cares. It is have these meaningful conversations, because sometimes our voices do go unnoticed. But I'm at that point in my life where, you know what, fuck it. It's not about the voices going unnoticed or unappreciated or underrepresented. It's about us creating our own space at this point. I'm not here waiting for anybody to do this for us. And so, you know, you're just another beautiful reminder that the trajectory is nothing but upward. And yes, it may seem in a macro level as if life is scary and uncertain and all that. Fuck that noise. Trajectory is absolutely upward. So thank you for that reminder.
Thank you. One day at a time.
One day at a time.
Dre Drizzle.
Yes, yes.
Julissa, my lovely, lovely lady H. Thank you guys very much for coming. This is Ron Kane. This is Just Words. And we are out.
That was so fun.
And Milagros, thank you very much for chilling in the background.
Milagros, shout out to you. Almost 2 hours.
Oh my God.
Yo, I thought you were just chill and sit.
I forgot
Oh my God! Wow, that's so telling.
Diablo. Yeah.
Thank y'all. That was really special.
That
That
was.
was amazing. I'm not gonna lie. That shit was.
Now what he just said has touched me. I'm really grateful that you shared what the show did, you know, for all